Hey there. So this is going to be another discussion video, which it's unscripted. Very similar to the one I did on the Nintendo Direct. I'm hoping to make this sort of like a sort of in between thing. I'm hoping for the discussion videos. It's for mainly the discussion videos. I want to use them as ways to discuss topics like stuff like the Game Awards or the Nintendo Direct. Or also, I want to use them to talk about games or movies or TV shows that I don't have a whole lot to say about, but I can still, I want to talk about them. And that is absolutely the case with the Outlast trials. So, let's get into that. Over the last week, I've been playing the Outlast trials. I've been gathering gameplay footage of the Outlast trials with the Duke, and we've just been having a blast. Me and the Duke, we've been having a blast playing it. And I want to use this video as sort of a discussion on the Outlast trials. So let's get right into it. In my Helldivers 2 video, I said that I like multiplayer games where it doesn't feel like a job to play them, and I feel like that's sort of the same thing coming into Outlast trials here. Like some of my favorite multiplayer games are like the old Battlefront 2 or like the original 2 Garden Warfare games, the Plants vs Zombies Garden Warfare games. Or even like recently, there's stuff like Helldivers and Lethal Company, and now with the Outlast trials, I feel like that we're seeing, and I said this in the Helldivers video, that we're seeing indie and double A, which Red Barrels, which I believe is the name of the company that makes Outlast. They're not indie by any standard, but I wouldn't consider them triple A by any standard. I feel like that they're like in that double A range, very much like Arrowhead, where it's like where it's the, and I feel like that the double A and indie um scene is absolutely taking a look at like the lack of really good multiplayer games, and so that's how we get stuff like Helldivers and the Outlast trials. Um, you're also seeing in the gaming space, you're also seeing a lot of shifts towards co-op. I mean, we saw this all the way back in like 2020, where Among Us was super big, where that was more. It wasn't you fighting each other. It's not like normal multiplayer games where it's a big deathmatch thing like Call of Duty or Battlefield or Fortnite or something like that. It's a very much a cooperative experience, and now we're seeing stuff like Helldivers, and now we got Outlast Trials and Lethal Company, and it's all stuff where it's you with a group of people working together to. And also, there's a game GTFO, which I heard recently came out of its beta, which or not beta. It's like it's got like a full release actually, which I'm probably not going to end up playing that, but that's another example. Um, it seems like that the Outlast Trials isn't getting a whole lot of discussion, and I feel like it's because Helldivers 2 is here. um, for me personally, if you want to know my personal history with Outlast, I have never played really an Outlast game. I started the first one a while ago, and I own the first two games, but I have never really gotten into the Outlast games. Um, Outlast very much popularized the modern style of horror games where you don't have any weapons. Your only objective is to run and hide. Which is very much like we saw that with a lot of horror games around the time of the first Outlast release, with stuff like Amnesia and So like Amnesia, Alien Isolation, and Outlast Trials is pretty much, from what I can tell, it's pretty much just a regular Outlast game, but now you can play multiplayer, which is really cool. It's really here's the problem that people have with multiplayer games, and I absolutely understand the issues that people have with multiplayer games that are horror based. Like you get your stuff like your Dead by Daylights and stuff, right? That a lot of people have issues with online multiplayer horror games, and like there's also like Friday the 13th, and they have issue with it because it's a horror game that isn't scary because you're playing it with other people. I don't really think that that's an issue for me. I know a lot of people have that issue, like it's not a horror game anymore because it's not scary because you're playing with other people. But for me personally, I feel like that multiplayer horror is actually I find it sometimes more enjoyable than regular horror at a lot of times because it's fun to just run. It's fun to run around and scream with a whole bunch of other people, especially if they're like close friends or something like that. Um, so um, I feel like going into it, I've actually played this game beforehand before it came out because I played it when it was in its early access stage. And now coming into the full version, I don't think there's much that's different that I can tell. From when I played it in early access, not a whole lot really has changed as far as the structuring of the game or anything. I think they just sort of added a few extra like missions or something, probably. But I can't really tell a difference between early access. The big thing though is that it was on consoles now, and that crossplay was there. So you'll see in the footage here that me and the Duke, I played on Steam on PC while the Duke played on Xbox, and it worked. It worked really well. The crossplay, I'd say it worked pretty well. There's always an issue with crossplay with a lot of stuff because that's the only way me and the Duke can play because he doesn't have his own PC, so we have to just like wait for a game to get crossplay. And but most of the time, what happens with crossplay is that you'll see this constantly is um you'll see like that they'll have it, but they'll have you like insert an entire code. Like it'll like I remember me and the Duke were playing RoboQuest, which is another game, but and for that game it's like you have to send an entire like 15-digit code to the other person, and it's like this is too hard. The Outlast Trials though, it's very simple. You just press a button and they and the other person joins your game. It sends an invite. You press a button, it sends an invite. The other person accepts it, and they're in your party now, which is super simple. It's very quick and easy to get into matches with people. Even I played it in early access. I remember I played it online with randos, and it was super quick and easy to find a party and get into it. And that's what you want with a multiplayer game. I haven't checked that now that it's fully out, but I bet that there's not that much that's different, especially now at crossplay. You get more players with stuff on Xbox and PlayStation. So I feel like that um, it's probably not that different from when it originally happened. Okay, so now what is the Outlast Trials? So the Outlast Trials is very much it's an Outlast game, but with multiplayer now. It's the objectives is you and a group of up to 4 players, but you'll see it's just me and the Duke in the gameplay footage, but you can get up to 4 people. It's you and up to 4 people. You go into a map, it gives you objectives to complete, and you have to do those objectives while also avoiding a monster that's chasing you. I think that the format of an Outlast game really works in multiplayer. I feel like that it really does translate well because there's always those times in the Outlast games where it's times you're just running. Like, because you don't have any really weapons. You can distract enemies and you can stun them for a bit, but you can't ever defeat them. So it's really good to have other people there. Because the thing with the Outlast is always like, the thing with the original two Outlast games was, and I this from the little bit that I've played of Outlast 1, but I got like so into the first Outlast game. Like, I got pretty far into it, like far enough to know the gameplay loop, but not far enough to like really. I like put it down after a while. So the formula usually how it goes is you have to complete an objective, but an enemy is chasing you, so you have to sort of like loop around. You have to like loop them around, and I feel like that translates really well into multiplayer because now with multiplayer you can have another player uh, send the monster on a wild goose chase while somebody else does the stuff. Like, I remember there's this one part of the Outlast trials that me and the Duke were playing where you have to push this guy in a cart, and there's this monster like trying to stop you from pushing him. And so what we did was is that it was either me or Duke would distract the monster by luring him as far away from the cart as possible while the other person pushed it. And I feel like it's really good to have that like sense of cooperation and teamwork that really does that really is emphasized in the Outlast style gameplay. Um, Another thing is that I like that the progression in the game is very quick. Like, it rewards you based on your performance in certain missions, and like if you do certain missions, it rewards you based off of how well you were, how fast you did it, if you didn't die at all. Like, it'll give you rewards based on it. But even if you like absolutely suck and don't do that well at all, the game will still give you stuff, and it still feels like that you have a general progression. Like, you never feel like the game's at a stop, if that makes sense. There's a lot of multiplayer games now where they'll do the thing of we're going to give you a few like starter levels, but then at some point we're gonna basically halt your XP gain to like a fraction of what it used to be, and you have to like pay to like, or you gotta go in on weekends or something to get double XP or whatever. And I feel like that's not what the Outlast Trials does. The Outlast Trials, it has that level up. It has the system where you level up through XP as you go through stuff, but it never feels like um, it never feels like it's at a complete halt. If that makes sense, it it feels like it's constantly pushing you forward and pushing you to do something new. Um, while most multiplayer games they sort of just halt you at a certain degree, either behind a paywall or behind like XP grinding, which nobody wants to XP grind, and nobody wants to be locked behind a paywall to progress in the game. So I definitely feel like the Outlast Trials. I would recommend um, picking it up if you're interested. Here's the thing, though. I recommend picking it up, but only if you have somebody else to play it with, okay? Because I remember I played it in the early access, and I dropped it. I liked it. When I played early access with random people, I liked it, but I dropped it fairly quickly. But I am playing it way more now that I have somebody I can actually play it with, somebody I know, somebody I can talk to and play it with. And if you have like, especially if you have like a group of friends, that's great. Another thing I should mention real quick while I'm talking about the group of friends is that I feel like me and Duke made this game so much harder on ourselves by just having two people, because the game is absolutely designed around you having four people there. So just having two, I feel like we sort of like made the game more difficult for ourselves which I don't think is what we didn't mean to do that, but it's just sort of like something. The game's not designed around just two people, but if you have like a group of people that you can play with, I would absolutely recommend picking this game up. But if you're a lonely gamer and you don't have you don't have a big friend group, or you don't have anyone else who has the game who can play it with you, then I don't see how you would get much out of this. Honestly, it's a game that it's not like other most multiplayer games like Helldivers. I feel like that's where this game falters for me, really quick. And this is also where like Lethal Company, which I know a lot of people liked, but that's where that game also kind of faltered for me. Was that it's only fun if you have somebody else to play it with. Meanwhile, there are games like Helldivers, which Helldivers I think is fun even if you are playing it with random people, or it's fun even if you don't have a big friend group, or stuff like the finals, which me and the Duke have also been playing recently, where that game, the finals, yes, it's fun to play with other people if you have other people to play it with, but the finals can be enjoyed by yourself. And I feel like that's where the Outlast Trials kind of drops the ball a little bit, is that you can't really play it that often if you don't have people to play it with. So if you're looking into buying this game, I would say that you should, but only if you know that there's somebody else who's going to play it with you, or if you have a group of friends who will play it with you. It's also harder. It's also harder to get people to buy this game because, unlike games like the finals, or even something like Lethal Company, where those are very cheap, the finals is free to play, and Lethal Company is like $15. Outlast Trials is $30, and if you have people who aren't willing, maybe if you know people, but those people aren't willing to spend $30 on a game they don't know just to play it with you. But if you do know someone who would like this game and enjoy it with you, then I would highly recommend picking it up. It's $30 on Steam, PlayStation, and Xbox. It's not on Game Pass, which I was really surprised by. I feel like this game would work perfectly on Game Pass. Um, but overall, I highly recommend it as long as you have someone to play. And that's really all I have to say about the Outlast Trials. Um, be sure to subscribe, like, comment, share the video with your friends. Be sure to hit that bell icon so you get notified whenever I do a video. I should be having the Dune Part 2 video up soon, and then after that, I don't really know what's after that, but I know that I have some stuff currently working on certain scripts for other videos. So, um, I hope you have a good rest of your day, and I'll see you later. Bye.